Hey, folks! If you thought TypeScript, if you thought TypeScript would go the way of Clippy, well, that ain't happening. For those of you who are wondering, Node.js now reads TypeScript, sort of. Anyway, let's just say that they're letting you play with it, and we're going to cover this and more this week. But first, this is episode 97. Can you believe it? Of This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly podcast, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. My name is Alim Gafar, streaming to you live from New York City. And with me is...
Hello, everybody. My name is Jan. I am baked, and I'm streaming to you from Prague.
Okay, and for those of you in the United States, he's not using baked the way we use it. Like, he's not high. He is he's just hot right now.
Yeah, I'm melting here, and you might probably see sometimes my camera being a bit slow or staggering. That's because of the heat. So after this is done, I'm turning everything off, and I'm waiting like 3 or 4 hours before I can turn it on again due to the heat. And because we don't have any ACs in Europe. How smart of us.
Oh my gosh. Well, in any case, I just want to also mention that we have a special guest here with us today, and you're going to see him in a minute. But first, let's just go straight to the news. So, has JavaScript become so commonplace as in terms of the name as Taser or Ping Pong or Aspirin? And if so, can it maintain its trademark status? Not if Ryan Dahl can help it. And you might know Ryan Dahl as the guy who had this crazy idea to put JavaScript runtime on the command line, creating Node.js. And as you know, MeteorJS runs on Node.js. Now, Dahl is working on Dino, a competitor to Node, and he's picked a fight with Oracle, the JavaScript trademark holder, for to free the term. So now that we're caught up, we're going to kind of go on with what's been happening since. So right now, yes, there is this fight going on between Oracle and Dahl, trying to get this term freed up. And there's been a number of lawsuits that have gone back and forth on it. The latest is that he has sent in a response to some fact finding in the lawsuit, and Oracle has answered back to these challenges, and these challenges are challenging the right for Oracle to maintain the trademark. So they've claimed abandonment, they've claimed a bunch of things, and Oracle, to its credit, has popularized the word denied many times in this response. So, you know, I don't know if you were able to look through it, but it was quite a bit to take a look and see this. Now, it's been a long time since I've been a legal editor, so I don't remember very much on, you know, I remember some on how this is structured and why it's structured this way, but I'm not an expert anymore on this. Jan, did you get a chance to take a look at this document?
No, it's too much legalese, and for me, it just, didn't really had a chance. I just got the general, the classical, hey, we want, to free this trademark, blah, blah, blah. And of course, their site says, no, this is how it's being actively used. Mm-hmm. And I've only kind of gathered pretty much what was already in the media themselves. And of course, as is usually with these, you have a lot of extra stuff around it, and so yeah, that's kind of where the legalese or the law language is intentionally the way it is.
Okay.
And it's its own beast. And I do remember there were like some studies that studied this. This even goes back to ancient China, where writing was a means to make sure that the peasants, would be kept down. And it's actually some of the latest studies when it comes to like laws and all the legal language is kind of showing the similar trend. It's kind of if you are not if you're not in the club, if you have not have been initiated properly, then it's intentionally done in such a way that you will need an expert that you have to pay very, very nicely to do any illegal actions.
Well, so this, on the right-hand side of this document, you'll see that it says cancellation. And if you look down towards the bottom, the most recent line says answered. And so initially when I looked at this, I thought maybe, this was a judge's finding of, for one party or the other. And I thought we were going to find out that the trademark had been abandoned. And as I started reading, it looked like denied, denied, denied. And I thought, the judge decided that Ryan doesn't have a case. And it turns out that's actually not it at all. It's this was a response that was written by Oracle and Oracle's lawyers. So it was a little confusing when I was first reading it, and then I realized I was not reading it properly. So anyway, if any of you out there are attorneys or have legal training and a better sense of how to read this than me, I'd be happy to have you take a look at it and get back to us. And maybe if we're off the mark on what we've read and what we understand from this, then by all means inform us. But what I do want to say now, and what I realize is I did not open the chat. So there might be folks in the chat right now that might have a response to this. So, okay, now that I've opened it up, I see that Küster is in the chat, which is great. Hi, Jan. So if anybody there has been able to look at it, can take a look and tell us that we're right, we're wrong, there's a different reading, and educate us on it, that'll be great. Other than that, I'm working on the mindset that on the idea that the lawsuit is still in play. There hasn't been a decision made yet. And by the way, I only found out recently that there is a petition that you can sign, and I just signed it. And what I didn't realize was that this was something that we could do to support getting the JavaScript name, dropped from the trademark. So, Jan, I think you told me about this, right? Well, we have the link here. And the link is just javascript.tm//sign. And that's what it'll take you to. And then you fill out this. You don't really have to do very much. You just click on it. I think you fill in, you sign it with by signing into your GitHub account. And then it takes that and it creates a signature for you. Storyteller, is there any other detail there that I'm missing?
No, we've reported on this already a few times. So just kind of want to make sure that this is kept alive, that the people know that there is development. And on the official channel, you can also kind of get the summary, as we've seen earlier. That's their latest video. That's why this came back to our radar, and that's because of the latest development. And that's stay tuned for more. And if you haven't already signed the petition, if you agree with that there shouldn't be a trademark for JavaScript, especially for Oracle, who is not really using that in much of a meaningful way, if at all.
So there's that. So obviously we reported on this, and I didn't pay attention to our own reporting. So that this was a surprise to me about signing the petition. So there you go. I gotta spend a little more time with my own stuff here. All right. So what's next?
So there has been this article that has been making rounds around all the newsletters and everything, which I found quite interesting. Pretty much claiming that client side or the single page applications are dead.
What?
So, yes, this is from Peter Pistorius, who is the creator of Redwood SDK. So take this with quite a big grain of salt, because he's using that to, of
Wait.
course, push his own product.
Isn't that a character from whatchamacallit? Never mind. I'll come back to that in a second. But the name of the story escapes me. But it that doesn't sound like a real name. It sounds like a made up name.
Yes.
But he's a real person, huh?
Yeah, so he argues that SPAs were chasing the native app like user experience, which yes, I agree. That's kind of true. That's where it was heavily inspired. But then he argues that today you don't need SPAs because back then they were also used to kind of polyfill a lot of the experience, and browsers have a lot of that experience now. By default, out of the box, so we no longer need that. And also that there has been kind of, as a result of that, a switch back to server-side rendering. So that's one big thing that he kind of comes to, and that's, of course, that's why Redwood SDK and all that stuff is all about. But he also, and this is why I decided to include is what he did say that he said that there is still a use case for SPAs, and that's in his opinion, zero latency, offline support, and client heavy interactions.
Yeah, I don't think the argument that that server-side rendering. I mean, server-side rendering to me was a way to deal with the long render times for really what we're considering like flat files, right? So it's that could be better served by serving up flat files, right? So like static content for the most part. I don't agree with that, but I'm bringing Kelly in here because Kelly might have a point of view on this. You've got a couple of more things I think you want to add, but on top of this, Kelly's also with us as our guest this week because we're going to be touching on TypeScript. So let me get back to that. Kelly, you want to say hi?
Hi, guys.
All right.
So have you, Kelly. So yeah, those are the main points of it. Again, clients browsers can already do all of those things. And then that kind of also brings me back to Kelly, because Kelly, you are working on server-side rendering in Meteor. So I'm kind of curious, what are your thoughts about the future of single-page applications like Meteor and server-side rendering? Where does that all fit in? And should we just start learning something new or change how Meteor works and all that stuff?
I mean, I wouldn't say that we need to change how Meteor works. I think that there is a story for server-side rendering. I mean, it is important for a lot of applications. I personally... one of the applications that I work on almost daily is a conference management site. And one of the big things that we need for server-side rendering is to be able to have all of our content, all of our events listed on Google. So we want that content out there. And without server-side rendering, Google doesn't index those pages properly, even to this day. So I think that there is still a large story for server-side rendering. But that being said, once your application loads, you should still be able to have a nice responsive user experience and not have to have page delays. One of the things that drives me nuts with Next.js is that one of their server-side rendering strategies hits the server for that server-side render, and so there's a noticeable delay, and it'll be for that entire page rather than server-side rendering, the first initial page draw, and then just using a SPA after that. So that noticeable lag when you hit that endpoint and go to the next page is like, that's a jarring user experience, at least for me personally. So I think there is still quite an important story for SSR, but at the same time, single page applications are still very important.
Yeah, I will probably have to talk with you a bit later on the how are those things progressing in Meteor, because right now I have similar issue with Little Universe, that this is problem unless you really work hard around the rendering for the search engines and Facebook. For some reason right now, Facebook, whenever I post a link to Little Universe, it bans my account, or suspends it. So I need to figure out what exactly is going on there. And right now, one of the main working theory we have is that because we don't have server-side rendering, it goes to the website, it doesn't load what it kind of expects there to load, so it thinks it's malicious, and then it attacks my account with this. And it has been an issue, or has been an issue with the SPAs for pretty much since the beginning to loading. Though I do recall that Google has gotten really better about it. So, but of course, everybody else, it's just, I would say, maybe a bit lazy with kind of, if the page does not render immediately, then it's gone. Anyhow, interesting, article, at least for the thought. And I do believe that kind of the point that browsers today do a lot of the stuff out of the box is valid, and I'm very much supporter of the native approach, where you try not to use the native inputs and all the stuff as much as possible, instead of trying to kind of shoehorn in some other custom data. And that brings me to the next story, if my camera works. Oops, that was too much. No, wait. No, I'm missing it here. Damn it, that's something I missed. Never mind. I'll do from because I didn't include any link here. My mistake. So, one of the things that came out recently was the state of CSS survey, and we have the results. And that one, I think, is a prime example of using native and kind of the continual improvement of the web technologies. That said, some things don't change, and despite having some of the new things like grid and other improvement when it comes to layout, layout is still considered a pain point for many designers and developers. And I just have a few more kind of details to kind of close this up, which one of the big things for me is that there is a desire for CSS to kind of get a theming option, because right now we have the light and dark theming that's possible thanks to a light-dark function. So expanding on that's something that there is definitely an interest to go more, because there is quite a few more things to consider. Has is the most popular feature according to the survey, which I can understand. Checking out what the tag has, for different properties is great. One thing I've learned is that there's the new text wrap pretty, which has highest usage increase from last year when it was introduced. Non-surprisingly, trigonometry functions are most hated. And kind of one of the big things that's kind of appearing from this, that CSS is no longer just a styling language, which if you all remember, we've talked about the if functions and variables and all the other things that are going into CSS. And I'm kind of I read the surveys and kind of reminded myself, I was kind of like, okay, CSS in JS is kind of getting overtaken by plain CSS when it comes to the functionality that I normally kind of look forward to use with the CSS in JS. So that's been kind of the survey, which in a way underlines the point that Peter is making in his article, at least just partially though.
Yeah, I remember now the story set, or the novel, or whatever you might want to call it. It's a series. Peter Pistorius kind of reminds me of a character out of Harry Potter. So that's when I saw that name, that's what I was thinking. For some reason, I just couldn't remember I could see everything, but I couldn't remember the name off the top of my head. So there you go.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Wow. Well, I think, Kelly, can you take this home for us? What should people do if they're enjoying themselves watching this?
I'm going to say that they should probably like and subscribe.
I think that would be good. All right. Thanks a lot, Kelly. And Jan, do you want to do the Stringify story, or?
Yes,
okay.
I've actually read through it. There is a news from V8. Which, if you don't know, V8 is the engine that runs JavaScript in the browser and on the server via Node. So anything any improvements that happen there or any changes, it will eventually make its way into browsers, into Node itself. And I love when I don't have to do anything and suddenly my application runs faster and better. And that is the case for the latest blog post from V8, which is that they have made JSON.stringify more than twice as fast in some cases. So that will be coming probably in the latest version of V8. So it will take a while to kind of drop into all the browsers and into Node. But definitely, something to look out for. We can read the article for more details. But what they did there, in essence, is that they have a new, could say, express path that bypasses the expensive check and defensive logic of the general serializer. So if you run JSON.stringify, then that's it will check that if you fulfill, if that JSON fulfills the conditions. Then it will run on the fast lane, and that's where you get the speed improvements. Those limitations, or what kind of fulfills, is that there should be no pretty printing, there should be no custom to JSON function or any other prototype extensions, and it must not contain any error-like index properties, and it should not have any complex string types. So if you have a very simple JSON object, then JSON.stringify is going to run up 2 times faster or more.
Wow.
Another good thing about it is that also through this work on this, they made JSON.parse and toString functional numbers faster as well, because they've touched a lot of the stuff around it, so like algorithms and all that stuff. So it's really, we will see improvements in that, and especially for me, because I do save a lot of stuff into local storage with JSON.stringify, which is a very common use case. This is definitely going to be awesome.
All right. Well, I guess people should just, go check their code and see if it runs any faster. Do they have to? Now with the V8, is that with a more recent version of Node that we're going to see this in, or?
Yes. So the article was published on 4th of August. So this is going to be take a little while, I think, before it goes into releases and before it trickles down into Node release and all that stuff. So
sure.
I think if it goes fast, and if the latest V8 is included in the latest Node 24. Then the earliest we can see it on the server side with Node will be Meteor 3.4 if that Meteor has Node 24. On the browsers, that will depend on the browsers and which version of Chromium they will be using that has it. So it will not be right now but you can expect that to see that in the future. And at the very least, I think look out for those exceptions that they have there, which will slow it, which will kind of use the old method or the generic one, which will slow it down, so you can maybe make some optimization for the future.
All right, very good, very good, very good. Okay, listen, I came here to see a really tight discussion on TypeScript today, so don't hold back, guys. What's going on? I know that there's some capabilities in Node now for TypeScript. Explain it to me.
So in the latest Node 24, there has been an addition of type stripping added to Node, which allows you to run TypeScript.
24, 22.
Well, I'll get to that, Alim. You are
okay. Right.
It's both now, because it was backported into 22.18. And what it does, and Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm looking forward to see what your take is on this. What it does, you can write your TypeScript file and everything, and once it builds, it will pretty much convert your TypeScript into a regular JavaScript by stripping out the types and anything else. So you can have TypeScript for your ID and everything, but in the runtime, it will just be a regular JavaScript. So that's the story with Node. Did I get anything wrong, or what's going on here, Kelly?
I think that's pretty close, man. Yeah. I mean, it just strips the TypeScript before it runs it, and then runs it as JavaScript, which I mean is pretty nice, not having to, that sort of opens up maybe not having to have a transpiler. And so that's a big deal. Of course, this has been available in Bun for a while now. So I think that there was a bit of pressure there from, people that use Bun that maybe sometimes have to use Node. They sort of want that feature. So yeah.
Is that also true in Dino, or?
Honestly, I have not ever used Dino.
Okay.
So
from my understanding, Dino is TypeScript first or something along those lines. But let me do a quick search just so that I am not.
So effectively, what they're doing now is the transpilation process that you would have to convert TypeScript down to JavaScript. You don't have to do as a separate outside step anymore. It's basically Node will take care of that for you.
As long as you're not doing any kind of other transpilation, then yeah,
what would be other?
Well, so if you want to transform, maybe you want to transform it into a different version of ECMAScript, or you're compiling different things. So a lot of times you're running Webpack or TurboPack or whatever to compile other modules and stuff like that. But if you're just running, say, a script on your local system and you run it with Node, and you're not running a whole bunch of other things that you need to transpile or whatever, then it just runs it. So
so any ancillary stuff, you're still going to need Webpack or some other build tool to do that
for the most part. But I mean, if you're like me, that I do have a lot of like little utilities that I run just from the command line, and being able to run those just as a command executable on your system is really nice. So
just a quick update on the Dino situation. It has a built-in support for TypeScript, and that's what they recommend pretty much that you use with it.
All right, so Kelly, everybody's going the TypeScript way, it seems, man. I don't think I can sit this out any longer.
I mean, when you finally use TypeScript and realize that like the features that it provides, the fact that it can live check your code and catch all those errors that you don't have to keep track of so much anymore. So when you're writing JavaScript, you're constantly thinking about certain things Like they have to be in the back of your mind, null checks, and you have to remember the API, and if you don't, you have to go look it up. Whereas with TypeScript, it's right there. It's in your editor. You have full code completion, the things that developers have been seeking since the beginning of time with an IDE that other languages have. So if you come from, like, say, Visual Basic, knew everything about Visual Basic in the editor, and it knew all the classes and methods and everything, and it was just there, and drop down, click, there it is. And with TypeScript, you get that sort of experience. So
so TypeScript still leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And the other part to this, I would say, is not so much about TypeScript, because TypeScript is really like doing things like being able to do type checking on the language really should be part of JavaScript itself. I don't understand why it's not there.
Well, the reason that it's not there is because without types, you can't do static analysis, which is why most compiled languages they have types, and you define the types in your code. And so that the compiler can statically analyze your code for errors before it.
Yeah, I understand what having it does, but I don't understand why they don't put it in. You're saying that there's an advantage for them not putting it into the JavaScript core language?
So I think that would be a complete, basically you'd be moving TypeScript into JavaScript. You would have to redefine the JavaScript standard to include TypeScript.
Well, not TypeScript. TypeScript exists because those capabilities are not part of the language, right? So, but the thing is, it's not to say that type checking is a foreign thing and then it changes JavaScript. I don't see any reason why JavaScript can't have it.
Right, but you would have to, types are not part of the standard now, and so TypeScript adds that onto.
I know, and that's my point, right? Which is, it should be part of the standard. My point is, I don't see any reason why in this day in 2025 that type checking is not part of the language by default.
There's proposals for it, so
So the thing, what it does is it creates a two-tier system of having an understanding of how to write code in JavaScript, so that it's going to be type safe. You have your JavaScript code, but then you have to have this, superimposed structure around it to include this, which creates some, it makes it a lot more difficult for people that are starting working with JavaScript. Now I've got to my head has to be wrapped around two different things. And my point is, and by the way, this is going to go back to an argument I have I'm going to be making at Impact. I think MeteorJS has really kind of abandoned the idea of what it really should be for. And it should be a simple stack for building applications very quickly and simply. And the idea that you had this, one language that ran all the way through, is one of the things that kept it simple, that kept you from context switching. And so when I have to learn, if I've learned JavaScript as a starter, and now you're telling me I need to also know TypeScript, it makes it that much more difficult as a beginner to really kind of take advantage of Meteor, if MeteorJS is going to go the way of including TypeScript as sort of like a first-class element in writing applications. I think you should be able to write your application. If it crashes, it crashes. Right now, honestly, if it had type checking built into it, you'd find that out while you're writing your code. The fact that I need to take an additional superset and throw that on, it doesn't, it's not attractive to me.
But without that superset, the type checking can't happen. So
absolutely, I agree with you. But let's be honest. Before TypeScript, we were doing. I wouldn't say we were doing fine, but you learned how to work with it without it, right? So it wasn't great, and you made a lot of mistakes, and maybe your runtime code had some problems, and So, and I'm not saying that I think TypeScript solves a lot, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be there, but I think that the capabilities or the things that TypeScript is handling should be in the language itself. You shouldn't have to go and then say, all right, I think I understand JavaScript. Now I need to learn the superset on top of it. And by the way, the superset gets written and then it gets transpiled into JavaScript, and then it gets executed. It just creates an unnecessary set of abstractions that I'm not happy with and I don't care for.
Yeah, well, you have to also look at it. The main reason is historic, and I've asked the AI to quickly summarize the issues why it came to. Besides, of course, that how rapidly JavaScript was originally developed, it kind of put in that.
Yeah, but that's over 30 years ago. Come on,
Yeah.
how rapidly it developed. Let's not go back over that. There's been a steering committee on this for years. So, it's not like one guy. It's not Brendan Eich was sitting down for like 20 years saying, "I'm the gatekeeper. We can't do this." No, that myth is, it's over. Brendan Eich basically gave up control of it a long time ago, more than 20 years ago. So in that intervening 20 years, it should be part of the core language. I don't know what holds it up. That's all.
Well, it's the types are inspired by Scheme and Perl, and it was also then done as a dynamic language, which was then popular for scripting.
Sure.
Like Perl, so which was again no types like that. And back then, it was issue was compatible across browsers. Of course, different situation today, and one of the problems that we've seen that has been kind of addressed over the years was that JavaScript was not intended for massive applications, so it was not thought that you will be needing
since
this.
the mid 2000s, when it first appeared like as part of the core part of Gmail. When has it not been in massive applications? That's 20 years ago now.
Yeah, but you have to remember that Google was writing Java and compiling it down to JavaScript to get past those limitations and make the experience easier for the developers. So, in those big applications, they have been using alternative ways so that they could manage those large code bases.
Yeah, I still call bullshit though, right? Which is we have been sitting with large applications using JavaScript, and when what was it? It was 2010, 2009 that Node came out. I mean, we've got a long history right now. This is and just to say that, well, we had other ways of dealing with this before, and we were generating JavaScript code by using other code to do so, doesn't get past the issue of type safety and whether or not, because now you've got, like, I generated some code, it's got to be interpreted, right? So the fact that I've generated some code doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be type safe code. So, again, I think this is something where having the superset laying on top of this just creates more confusion. And to be honest with you, I think it makes the idea of what MeteorJS is and should be, which is first and foremost to me, it should be a platform that allows you to build applications really, really quickly without a lot of context switching and an overload. And I think if you do that really well, you have something that's really, really different out there. But you add all of these different things in. Our first class viewing mechanism is React, which now requires you to know so much more. I think it becomes, it confuses the MeteorJS story. And so anyway, my point is that the more confusion that we add to this, the less likely MeteorJS gets, picked up by first timers as it used to be picked up to do really cool things with. And yeah, so all right, I had my rant. I'm moving on.
Gotta expect that would be Kelly, not you, Alim, doing this, right?
Oh, why, Kelly? Do you have a similar rant?
No, honestly, so my view on it is that I sort of like the current segregation, if you can call it that. I like that there is still the story that, like, if you don't want to use TypeScript, you don't have to. And so and just to throw it out there, I love React, so I have nothing to rant about that. There's probably other things I could rant about, but it wouldn't do any good.
I just throw myself into the beginner's shoes, right? The top of the funnel, how people discovered Meteor in the first place, and the amount of skill that you need to bring to it to actually do something productive. And making that harder, creating more friction with that, I just think keeps more and more of those folks out. And then once you've developed those skills in the first place, then you start taking a look and you say, I don't necessarily need to use a whole platform most of the time. I can go and I can work on different parts. That to me is, again, like I don't want to get too deep into this because we can get lost in the weeds here, but I have a talk I'm working on that I make that argument, and it's going to be an impact, and we'll see whether or not I'm just an old man screaming at the wind, or if some people out there agree with me. All right, so that's all we got to say about that. Are we still on this topic of TypeScript right now?
Yeah, I'm going to add a few things, and I'll have a question for Kelly, because recently TypeScript 5.9 came out. MeteorJS is on 5.8.3 last time or something around that. So Kelly, any idea what's going on with TypeScript 5.9? Why do we have so much development if it's just about the types?
I don't think this release was much about the types. I think it was more about cleaning some other things up, better developer experience. One of the things that they did was expandable hovers. So they're, in VS Code, you get better error messages in the editor and they're easier to navigate. That was one of the big things. They cleaned up the TSC init, the TS config that it generates, making that a bit easier. So this release wasn't much about types, really, if you ask me.
Sounds good. And I kind of want to, Alim, pile up, on that people want types and all that stuff, because I've discovered, or there has been a bit of a, should I say it, recently, quite a few applications that all talk about type, and we have Stan, which is Polish for state, which is a new library that says about type safe state library for TypeScript. And we can go to Panda, which is type safe CSS in JS, and it's all this type safe. So I think that kind of goes more to your point that people want type safety, or maybe a bit how to take it just shows that we are not careful enough with our types, or when coding. Then that's why we need these extra tools to do that for us.
But I think this hits my argument that it should be in the core language, right? Yeah. That if we're finding again and again and again that, by the way, and this is not like just an extra feature or a standard library, right? That we're talking about here. We're talking about something that is core to the behavior of the language itself. And so to me, this really shouldn't be an external package that's out there. It should be baked into the language itself. And I don't understand why the TC39 does not make a hard-ass move to get it into the language right now. As a matter of fact, even the runtimes, as we're talking about, are starting to say, hey, we should include TypeScript because type safety matters, and we should acknowledge that and make it easy, since people are going to be writing these shims, and I consider TypeScript a shim around the JavaScript language. That if they're going to be writing these shims to get type safety, then we should compile for it. And if that's the case, just put it into the language. Why do we have this thing separate still? Just get something there.
So Alim, are you saying that, like, what part of it would you say should go in the language? Should the type checking itself?
Yes, absolutely.
So my personal thought on that is I have a huge issue with that because of the fact that that's going to slow down the runtime. And like I personally would not want type checking at runtime.
You don't have to. I mean, you could do static analysis, right? You could basically like precompile, take a first pass through the code and say, okay, well, these are typed items, right? They have a certain behavior and so on, and then basically behave the way that it does right now with when you do the transpilation from TypeScript. Just do everything that TypeScript does. Just put it into the language.
But then, so you get into some things where does TypeScript, does the runtime crash when you have a type error?
It should gracefully give you an error, and then and then either it could make a decision. I mean, that's up to the TC39 to figure out like what's going to be the behavior. They have a fucking committee, man, right? They've got some pretty bright people. This is not something that's never been figured out before. Am I wrong?
I mean, no. I think there's a lot of caveats that maybe
I think if
you could use a feature flag and put it in and say this is an experimental feature, right? And get it started that way and then work it out. Or you could have a flag in there that says, by the way, we're going to be type safe by default. But if you don't like that, then use this flag, and what it's going to do is no safety. I mean, just do it. Put it into the language. Don't have these external libraries that are shimming your language. It's just it's dumb. It's stupid. It shouldn't be done this way anymore. And the fact that you have to figure out which shim I'm going to use, Panda, or should I use TypeScript, or should I use something else? It's nonsense, right?
I mean, I think those things are still going to exist whether it's in the language or not, because you still have to write the code in a way that it uses those features. So personally, though, I think we're going a little far if we're doing type safe styles. I guess maybe if it's CSS and JS, but if we're doing type safe CSS, like I don't know where things are going. I think we've gotten out of control.
Well, I'm not talking about CSS, right? I'm talking about JavaScript.
Right, but Panda is a type safe styling library.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I got to put my glasses on. I'm not reading very much. Sorry.
But the proposals already exist. I think there is a lively discussion on that. And I'm kind of surprised, Alim. I didn't expect you to have the hot takes today. That's why we brought Kelly on.
Yeah, no. I mean,
inspiring the hot takes.
Yeah, and then Kelly's just like sitting there reeling it back in. It's
for me personally, I like the Meteor approach to TypeScript. It's there, it supports it, but if you have type errors, it shows up in the IDE, but it will not stop you from running the app and burning your hand. So because it also kind of, I think it's with this kind of goes back to the backward compatibility of MeteorJS, that it recognizes that you will have, especially if you have a big application like me, you will have tons of JS files that they don't have types. And if I was stopped from releasing until I move everything to TypeScript and add types to everything, I wouldn't be doing a release for a year or more.
Yeah.
Just to, or okay, probably not, because I would then be forced to do all of them, but it would be a significant slowdown.
Yeah, look, I think you can add type checking into the JavaScript language, and figure out a way to do it so that you're not necessarily slowing down the runtime during runtime, right? There are ways of doing this, and there are people out there that are much smarter than I am, much more experienced at this than I am, that can look and find examples in other places where it's been done and do it. And to me, I think, again, part of the thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to think, and somebody might say, well, that's just you being like, very, very dogmatic about your own belief system. But here's the thing: if I'm working with a language, I don't want language extensions. I just want to work in the language. It's just going to confuse things. And when I'm thinking in terms of developers that are starting out, right, they having to have them say, by the way, before you can play, you need to know this, this, this. You've got to know some HTML, which is not too much to ask for. But CSS has become very, very complicated. We ask for that too. And then we want to give them JavaScript. And now, by the way, if you want to use a database, you're going to have to do SQL. The great thing about MeteorJS is the fact that it's JavaScript all the way up and all the way down, right?
Yeah.
So it makes it really easy to adopt if you have these basic three things. We're asking quite a bit when somebody's first starting out. And we need that pool of beginners always to refresh. The thing is, once we get to a point where you have some experience with it, and by the way, I think also that if you get to learn a language, you got to learn more than one. I mean, I do not see CSS as a real programming language. Not yet. I do not see HTML as a programming language. It doesn't really have branching. It doesn't really have loops. It doesn't have a lot of things that languages have. It's a markup, right? That's how I see it.
That's what it is. Subset of XML.
Right, exactly, which is a subset of SGML, right? And I've been around in the SGML days. So, there's all of this stuff that's there. But, learn C, learn Lisp, learn other things, and that's going to increase your repertoire and understanding of like what other languages do and what they do by default, and perhaps allow you to figure out, what's really not that performant about the language that you're using. I got to say that, JavaScript has been an incredibly useful and frustrating language at the same time in its construction. But again, I think it's one of those things like, prototypal inheritance was really, really like a mind fuck. I mean, at the very beginning. But once you kind of grasp it, it's like, okay, it's its own thing, right? The fact that you could do both functional and object-oriented programming in it is kind of interesting too, right? Determining what kind of style you want to use. But functional doesn't work as well because we don't really have types, right? So there's some things there that now you got to get the shim to make things work a bit better. I just don't see any reason why in this day and age that type checking is not part, type safety is not part of the core language in JavaScript right now. And I don't want to have to go out and search for, and that's why I use MeteorJS, right? I don't want to go out and search for my database. It's already there. I use it. Okay. It's not a SQL database, but by the way, it doesn't stop me from using SQL if I want to bring that in later on. So I don't mind the add-ons when it adds value, but when I want to just build something and not have to worry about it, not have to think too much about it, I just want to get an idea down as quickly as possible. That's what I want to do. And I don't always stay in Meteor. I go off. I work in Python. And when I come back, now I have to remember, oh, wait, how does React work? I don't really work with React. I work with, with Pug. It's a markup language in my Flask applications. I stay simple, or I work with Vue. I like Vue. But, I like coming back and just picking up Blaze. Blaze is relatively straightforward, and I'm not building complex UIs. I'm just trying out some ideas. And once I get that working, then I'll say, okay, how do I make that more performant? What can I do? What do I swap it out with? That's how I want to think about it. But I don't want to think about those subsets early on. And so, but I also do think that it is beneficial to have static type checking in the language at its core. It reduces a tremendous amount of frustrations that you have at runtime, right? So I agree with you, or we should have compile time checking, right? So I agree with Kelly that there's value there, but I think it should be in the core language. Otherwise,
Speaking of swapping out, Alim, what do we have with NPM happening?
All right, so I have a note here that says, "Hold on to your ass." So I'm a little tired. I only had a couple hours sleep last night, so I was using that as my cue. I don't know if that's a good transition, but here's what's happening, which is we're finding that more and more we're seeing npm packages get hijacked, and this is part of like having all of these dependencies in your application. You want to build something, and you use an external package. It turns out that sometimes that package is predicated on other packages. And recently there was the npm is package that's been hijacked. And let me get back to the points here. But the real point is you got to be careful, and you have to kind of know what the dependency chain is in your application. And I know that npm tries very hard to make sure that there is some degree of safety. But there was apparently one of the folks that were contributors to the is package that did something bad and made a submission, and it loaded malware into into it. So let me just read from the article. The relevant thing: the threat actor that planted a Windows. So it's mostly Windows only, but you'll figure this out. Threat actor that planted the Windows only DLL in ESLint-config-prettier, ESLint-plugin-prettier, SyncKit, at package/core and NAPI-post install, and also got -fetch also embedded in the JavaScript malware loader in the is package during the same attack window. I have just said a lot of words that I am confused by now, and I'm sure I confused you. But effectively, I think all of those packages use this is package, and this is package was the vector for a malicious bit of malware. So anyway, the point is you've got to be really careful about the using shared packages. And I think this goes back to how much we depend on other people's work. Maybe we should be looking at when it's something like LeftPad, something that does something simple, right? Instead of using somebody else's package, just write it yourself. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Kelly, you got a thought on this? Did I confuse you?
No, not at all.
Okay, cool.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, but so it's really hard as a software developer not to stand on the shoulders of giants, especially in JavaScript without the standard library in JavaScript. Things like LeftPad that was attacked and should be standard features, things like that. But even then, I don't think there's any way that you're building applications in a productive manner without standing on somebody's shoulders. And it's a really hard issue to solve. I hope that somebody does it, but like it's hard to build software without relying on other people to looking at this feature that they've built, this package that they've built, and you go, wow, that will save me months of development. And so of course you add it, and of course they've stood on other people's shoulders as well to create their things. And so it really is everybody's standing on each other's shoulders to see as far as you can see. And that's a hard problem to solve. Like, I couldn't imagine writing, say for instance, Prisma,
right.
And, even if, that's a large corporation, there's still attack vectors there. Somebody in the company could, get disgruntled and leave. And, when they leave, they insert something in there and nobody notices. And it goes through and, thousands of people end up with that exploit in their system. So,
the idea that NPM had was that they were going to be the first line of defense, right? In terms of this, like if you're gonna upload, there's going to be some scans that they go through your code, and you basically, like, if you're downloading from NPM, you should have some degree of confidence that that the code is relatively secure. But that hasn't been the case for quite a while now. So, I mean, where do you think we can? I don't know if Jan, you have an idea about where there could be additional checks or verification. Like, how do we deal with this issue, because it is a real issue. And from the article, it says that this malware, which is called Scavenger, loads a sophisticated info stealer using anti-analysis techniques, indirect syscalls, and encrypted C2 communications. So it's sitting there and it's sucking information and then just pushing it out. How do we what do we do? Because you become liable for your own work, right?
Yeah, so that's why the SBOM and all the other new security practices have started emerging. This is something that a lot of the corporations have been getting behind a lot more, but it's much more difficult to understand, for like this single developers or like for smaller companies, because it's not, at least from what I've looked at it last time, it's not really been that simple, and it has kind of the classical corporate feel to it.
Yeah.
But I think the big part, and this is what I have been dismayed in multiple companies, is to really watch your dependencies and be aware of them. I am constantly also on watch for updating my dependencies. So I'm at least once a week I run a utility and to check for any new versions, and check into what I can do about it. I'm aware of them. As was already mentioned, limit your exposure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get a report from Dependabot, from GitHub.
Yeah,
on a fairly weekly basis that tells me, hey, it's time to update these dependencies. And that's kind of all I have right now. But are there other things that you use?
Yeah, I have Dependabot as well. I have Node. I always forget what's the full name, but the command is NCU. But I think also NPM. There's NPM audit that does check for any dangers or the dangerous dependencies that you have in your app, and I think it has something similar to NCU built in as well. There is Snake, and there are others. So you have to kind of get yourself familiar with it to do that, but that is still not a replacement of actually watching the repositories, watching the code, which is what most developers in their daily jobs they don't do, or they don't. For me, I think the best approach for this would be to have developers each assigned specific dependencies that they have maybe some relations or that they like or something like that, that they are watching, so that if something is happening in that in that dependency, they are aware of it, and not just from the security reasons, but also they can make better informed decisions about the future development of the project as well, because they know what features are coming, what's going on. That's kind of what I've been trying to provide, but there just hasn't been that much interest in this role. So it's a very much underappreciated, and what I've seen most of the time is that especially in a lot of the outsourcing dev shops is they kind of lock themselves in into one version, and they stay on that like 5 to 10 years until they are forced either by security or something like, really else to update. And developers in that, they don't check on, any of the news updates or anything like that. I do remember, but that was a bit different, like, 10 years back. But that's a bit different because it was like quite crazy. That there had to be lengthy meetings on updating dependencies and big plans, instead of if you just kind of follow. That one was for React, where they were like big changes in React, so it was not applicable. But I've seen and heard about similar things happening for much smaller dependencies, and that could have been avoided if you were active within the community, or at least were watching. Even like with one eye closed watching, you could have seen, okay, oh, this is the new feature that's coming on, this is going to be deprecated, so let's not use that at least for any new feature, and put that into a backlog that we should kind of phase it out and let the developers know, so that they don't use this again. And then a few months down the road, when we have to upgrade this, we won't be stuck with not being able to upgrade because everybody's still using this old feature that has been deprecated or something like that. So, and I think there's no really replacement for that. You can have all the automated tools and everything. And also what I've seen, there's also, then there's the over reliance on the Dependabot and everything else. And
no, look, I mean, a lot of this, there's a, and then this and then that. The point is, like, it does create, this dependency tree. Like, to me, my initial thought was, well, one of the things I could do is I could try to, like, kind of trim my dependency tree to the degree I can. But, part of the problem is, like, I might remove something that I depend on, but then there's this other package that I use that depends on that same thing. And they're reaching through to get at it, especially when it's something that's almost like a primitive, like left pad, right? But we have Min in the chat. Hey, Min and Zaid, who have shown up, and there has been a lively discussion on this. So I'm not going to go back to the TypeScript stuff, but Min has here. I just checked on my npm packages. My app uses about 1,000. That's pretty insane. And then he asked me, because I guess I was saying, are you sure updating makes you safer? And his comment was, I mean, a popular package can be safe today, but not tomorrow. Absolutely true. Happens all the time. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm depending on upstream analysis, right? So So this is a problem, right?
That's why you need to be involved. That's why you need to know that if the update is malicious, like in the case of the is package, or if everything is fine and as it should be. It's not 100%. That's the issue with security. Nothing is ever 100% on that, but it's. I think that's the biggest problem. It kind of goes back to our discussion last week about all the security most companies have, especially when it comes to potentially now having to take care of personally identifiable data for age verification and whatnot. And I think we are going to have quite a big fire on our hand in the near future because of that.
Okay, listen, we've gone over on time on a lot of these things. Let's keep this moving. And I think there is some very useful MeteorJS news that we can talk about today, correct?
Yes, actually will be relatively fast. So, but before that, guys, again, subscribe. Let us know how things are going, especially get the thumbs up. And I am off to Meteor news. So
Let's have
to enjoy our awesome animation there.
Yeah, cool.
So, oops, that's script touch. Oh no. So first things first, let me go back to my notes so I don't miss anything. So a couple of weeks back, or 2 weeks back, almost 3, I started the accounts improvement initiative thread on the forums. And I would like to again invite everybody to join in to kind of speed up the development and fixes for the account system, because I believe that's one of the killer features of MeteorJS. And on my last stream on Monday, I've added one of the things on my list, another PR. So I'm actively working on it, and I would appreciate if other people could take on this and move this forward as well. A lot of stuff that we can do there. So that's to that. Whoops, wrong screen. Next, we've talked about this a few times already, but now it's official. Meteor 3.3.1 is fully available, no longer release scan or anything like that. So you can get it as the official release. And with that said, Meteor 3.3.2 is in development to fix even more of the issues related to that. Also is that Meteor 2.16.2 is being developed to include Cordova 14 with the SDK 35, so that even the older Meteor applications can still do like a final release on that old version before they jump to Meteor 3. So this might be probably the last release on the 2.16 or 2.x branch.
Okay.
And
no, I didn't realize any work was being done on the 2.x branches at all.
Yeah, it was related to Cordova and all that, but nothing new. And it's very kind of difficult just because of how different these two are. So it kind of goes from what Nacho said last time he was on here. So stay tuned, and again, watch what's going on in the Meteor repository. If you watch the pull requests, if you watch the issues, even just the titles, you kind of get the ideas of what's going on. And
sure,
so those are that. And Meteor 3.4 is in development as well. That is where we get quite, I would say, few life improvements and some new features, like the things I'm working on the accounts
Okay.
improvement initiative.
Let me just share something. I mean, this is sort of a last minute thing that's come up, and let me just share something with you guys. But there are a few things I think that we should keep in mind and remember to track. One is, let's see this. One is MongoDB change streams, and let me just drop this up here. So there's been a long and robust discussion going on about this, and I'm not going to rehash anything here, but as this is going forward, sometimes there's some really exciting and exciting work that's been done and testing that's been going on this. I happen to be looking at this early this morning, and I'm sorry that I'm scrolling so fast here. This is not meant for you to read as I'm scrolling. You should go to this title. Just go to forums, search on MongoDB change stream support in MeteorJS, and this will come up. Well, one of the things that was being asked about these numbers was from Radislav, who had asked, if the tests were performed with more than 100 users, were there any long-running tests, and did you compare it against the Redis oplog behavior? And Italo says, no, my machine can't handle so much, max of 200 at 60 seconds, but I have similar results. My machine can only handle a maximum of 60 seconds, but similar results. So, here's the thing. It's like, I don't know what experience you guys have, but whenever I hear, and when I was a manager of an engineering team, it works on my machine or my machine has this, it's not to me a suitable test environment, because quite frankly, developers' machines are not like the last say. So I kind of responded with this down below here. And I know Italo is a great developer. He's a fantastic engineer, and he's very careful. So I think we're going to get something back. I think they should spin up a couple of replicate a production environment that we would have large streams of data going back and forth for a few hours, maybe a couple of days, and just run it and see what, how well this all works. So in any case, my point is that this is still evolving. This was 23 days ago that Atala wrote this. Obviously, I was not paying attention until recently, and then I wrote my response. So, but you can see this has been a conversation that started all the way back in January. So get on it, keep track of it, because I believe that chain streams are going to be a great addition to MeteorJS's capabilities. But we also need to be aware of what the shortcomings might be, or if we're getting too excited about something that is really still in early stages. You may have some ideas on how to do an implementation. There's discussion earlier in this about using John Marrow's package, and then there's some pros and cons against that. Just, again, stay informed. That's one place where I think we should stay informed and keep informed. The other place that the other thing that I think that we should keep track of, and I wanted to bring this back to Kelly and, well, mostly to Storyteller, but Kelly may have an answer to this also, is we were tracking for a while the changes to the packages, the atmosphere packages or the Packsphere packages that are used in MeteorJS applications from the 2 series into 3. So kind of curious as to, we really probably should do an update on this from time to time. So, do you have any news on this? Because I don't think we've been really bringing this up very much.
So last time, or not last time, but some time ago, we've covered the Flow router and Iron router, kind of having special versions released for Meteor 3, and that was a kind of one of the big one that was still remaining, especially on the Iron router side, that where people kind of needed it for the most part. I would say all the main packages are already upgraded. The ones that are not upgraded are either abandoned or there is some other thing. And I think, Kelly, you are working specifically on fast render and server-side rendering for Meteor 3 as well in that. So I think you will have more details on that.
Yeah, that's a complicated situation right now. So basically, I've submitted a pull request to Meteor Core to get server-side rendering working with the latest versions of React, and that it was a small change, but it quite a pain to figure out how it was going to work. And the other issue with that is that in React, because of that change, now I'm going to have to learn some way or figure out some way to do the fast rendering different and the data loading too, because when we hand over the rendering to React, it sort of takes the data loading out of the equation and doesn't allow us to wait for the pipe to the client until it before the data is ready. So it pipes before the data is ready, and then I have no way to send data to the client. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. But yeah, more things coming, hopefully with the 3.4 release of Meteor. So
that is one of the packages that you're saying that still needs to that's in the process of being migrated. It's not done yet.
Yeah. So and when that's released, it probably we'll lock the minimum version at 3.14 because or 3.4, and because of that. So Hopefully maybe lower versions on fast render. But the SSR package, I'll release that as 3.4 because it'll rely totally on that release. So
sorry about that, guys. I don't know if you heard anything just now.
Just a small.
Yeah, I apologize. I was trying to load up the next item in the background, but it started playing automatically and I couldn't stop it. So I apologize about that. All right, so I believe that there was a spreadsheet that was being tracked for that was being kept to track.
Yes, that was Harry's works. So
okay.
I think for the most part, or it's available. And I haven't. I probably should. But yeah, that will be maybe a little bit outdated. But yeah, with exception of a few very specific packages, like fast render and similar, most of them are already or they're abandoned, and in some cases they will be
right.
You know,
But that's reflected in the spreadsheet. If somebody
yes,
were to go to that,
there might be some updates might be necessary for that.
Okay, so I think that's one of the things I think that would help by the general public in terms of being able to know what they can expect to what's been done, what they can expect to see migrated, and then what they can expect not to see migrated, right? So it's one of those things I think that's, and from a housekeeping point of view, I think has just sort of been sitting in the back burner.
Yeah.
But we probably should take care of. And then the final thing I wanted to bring up was, from time to time, and I haven't done this recently, I'll run by and see who might have created some content related to MeteorJS, and I ran into this tutorial when I was doing that check. It's a Meteor tutorial that was done by a YouTube creator called Steve's Teacher. I don't know who Steve is, but there you go. And that was done only 4 months ago. Doesn't have a lot of views, but it was intended to be. This is lesson 1 in terms of the project. I have not seen when I've gone to the
and hello everyone.
I'm sorry about that. To Steve's Teacher. Oh, there is a part 2 here. Oh, look at that. Okay, so there has been a part 1 and a part 2. Let's see the full playlist over here. There are multiple parts to this. So this is kind of cool. Has anybody seen this? Have any of you guys seen this?
Today's my first time.
Okay, so if you're interested and you're looking for a very recent MeteorJS tutorial, there's one out there. And what I'll do is I'll get the playlist and I will share that in our channel so that you can go straight to it from our channel. But also, if you want to look up Steve's Teacher.
Yeah, it's on the presentation right now, Alan. If you want to share that again, the link is there.
Yep, let me add that. Okay, there you go. So beautiful. So it is there, and go check it out. All right, you'll get to the first one, and then go to Steve's Teacher and the creator's name, and then go down to the playlists, and you can find the playlist. Again, I will put that playlist into our playlists, and so you can also find it on our channel too. But give this guy some love. Check it out. Try it out. See if it actually works for you. And if it does, I think this is probably going to be a little bit of homework for me for the weekend, is to give that a try and see if I can actually go through it successfully. And if it works, then I might want to recommend this as a place that newbies can go to learn some modern MeteorJS. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
All right, let me take this this thing off. Do we have anything else that we need to show?
Yes, there's a few
reminders.
more reminders.
All right, go for it.
So, Meteor Impact is coming up soon. Please go sign up. We need you to sign up. If you go to the page, there's a sign up button that will show you kind of like embed from Luma. Use that to sign up. You can also donate to the conference, which would be much appreciated. And through that sign up through Luma, then you will get the link to the conference and everything. Or you don't have to donate anything as well, so it's free. So please sign up. And with that, you can also see a couple more talks on the website today. Some new speakers, so check that out. And stay tuned for more information. And last thing, the community survey for 2025 is open, so please fill it out. Let us know, where are you developing Meteor? What are your pain points? What do you like about Meteor? All that stuff. It should be like 10-15 minutes max, and it will be super useful and fun once we analyze data, and it might help the core team figure out where to put their resources, or for interesting community people as well. So do check out that survey, fill it out, and share it with everybody else. So we want to know how many Meteor developers are out there. So that's on that, and I think that's it. This will be from
but you should still talk about it every single week, right, until we get to it. So
I'll have hopefully more news as we get closer to impact. But I'm looking if people are interested to kind of do the Discover Meteor book again, but for Meteor 3.4. Right now I'm calling it Rediscover MeteorJS. So rediscover.meteor. The MeteorJS.community is the website where you can sign up with your interest, and based on that interest, I will either write the book or I will shelve that for another time. So definitely sign up for it if you want me to build this, and you can kind of see what I'm proposing. The topics are going to be, and of course, you can let me know if there is something that you would love to have in the book that I am missing. So please let me know if this is something of interest.
All right. And are we at the end of our show?
Yes, there is nothing more here.
Okay, guys. Let's see. Let's get the nice layout. I think this is a really cool layout. This is very nice. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us again this week. All the folks that are in the chat, Min, Küster, who can't be with us. Who else is there that was there? There was Zaid, I'm sorry, and a few others. I can't even pronounce some of the names because they're not really pronounceable. All right, folks, listen, thank you for joining us again this week. We hope that it's been useful to you, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care now. Bye.